There are three different parts of self-concept. Self-image, or how you see yourself. Our self-image is a mixture of different attributes, including our physical characteristics, personality traits, and social roles. It doesn't necessarily coincide with reality. Self-esteem, or how much you value yourself. There are different factors that can influence self-esteem, including how we compare ourselves to others and how others respond to us. And the last part is ideal self, or how you wish you could be. Most of the time, the way we see ourselves and how we would like to see ourselves do not quite match up.
And that's the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. And that word usefulness is very important because we're really being a bit goal-driven here. Values are meant to take you somewhere. It can take you to internal integrity. It can take you to happiness. In fact, I would argue that you cannot have happiness without having internal integrity. And that's what this is about. What's important to you may be what's important to many people because they think it's going to bring them happiness. If I'm powerful, I'll be happy. If I have prestige, I'll be happy. When I hold on to my wealth or create wealth, financial wealth, then I'm happy. However, we all know people, and you may be one of them, for whom you may have one or more of those sorts of things, but the happiness doesn't come with it. It's an empty promise. And there's a very simple reason for that. It's because those things are outside of you. And they're vulnerable. Status can be lost. One newspaper article and it can be gone. One public divorce. One reputation. You're only as good as your last deal. You know, those sorts of things. So that's very vulnerable. And maybe it doesn't have to be like that. When you're thinking about the utility of values, things that are really going to give you what you want, and ultimately that's usually going to be something like happiness. So what kind of values will bring you happiness? The same ones that make someone reliable and really nice to be around. Kind, generous, strong, wise, calm, compassionate. Those can be qualities of a leader. Those can be qualities of a mother. Those aren't qualities that mean one has to have one kind of role outside in the world or another. These are very generic sorts of values. Now, a lot of people will think of like, well, I need to be in control and I enjoy being in control. That's really important to me, so it's a value, right? No. Being in control is a strategy to compensate for insecurity and perceived internal weakness. It's not a value at all. And why would someone want to be in control? Because they think they'll feel safer. So actually, when you look closer at it, security is a value. Feeling secure is a value. And that makes more sense.
Starting off, we have musical ability. People who score high in this category enjoy listening to music, may learn better by listening, and have a sharp sense for what sounds pleasant to the ear. This means that they have a knack for rhythm, tones, melody, and can often memorize and replicate pieces of music quickly. If you have a strong affinity for music, then it probably means that you are good at playing musical instruments, singing, or even composing music. And although this is often a skill set that society dismisses as just a hobby, there are many career paths for people who excel in this ability. This includes becoming a music-related content creator, working on audio for films and video, composing and writing music, and working on sound design in general. Next up, we have natural ability. People who score high in this category usually enjoy spending time in nature, love plants and animals, and they understand how the different compounds and elements in the world interact with each other. This means that they have a knack for survival skills, they can identify individual plants and species, understand how animals behave, and they know how everything in nature is connected. Possible career paths for someone who scores high in natural ability include cooking, farming, working with animals, working with medicine, and even working in health, because everything related to our body is technically part of nature, and they can also work in any field related to the environment. The next category on our list is movement ability. People who score high in this ability enjoy moving their bodies, whether it's large explosive movements or even the tiniest and most fine-tuned of movements. They have the powerful ability to control individual muscles in their body, allowing them to do amazing things that are often deemed impossible for the average person. The great thing about this category is that it's heavily tied to practice. Repeating a movement literally strengthens your neurons' ability to fire in that way, which allows you to repeat that move faster and more accurately over time. Possible career paths for someone who enjoys and excels at movement are the sports, dance, fine craftsmanship, personal training, and even martial arts. Next up, we have interpersonal ability. People who have an affinity for this have a deep understanding of the relationships between people. They can quickly read someone's body language and get an idea of how they are feeling, and they are usually good at holding conversations. They understand human nature and how people interact with each other. Possible career paths for someone who has a knack for this ability include sales, creating social content like interviews and talk shows, event planning, relationship counseling, and even working in law enforcement, because they need to be able to read people. Similar to interpersonal ability is our next category, which is called intrapersonal ability. People who have an affinity for this have a deep understanding of themselves. They know how to look in the mirror to spot what needs work, allowing them to reflect and adjust. This is an extremely powerful ability that is crucial for self-improvement because the only way you can improve is if you can identify what you need to work on in the first place. Now, there aren't too many occupations that focus mainly on intrapersonal ability. It's something that helps you work on yourself, but professions like therapists, self-improvement coaches, and motivational speakers fall under this category to some degree. Up next, we have logical ability. People who fall under this category can reason well. They may have some interest in math and the sciences, but most importantly, they are interested in the truth. They act on reason more than emotion, often feeling like the correct answer is more important than what's morally right. People who score high in this category are excellent at solving technical problems and can usually predict whether or not something will work with reasonably high accuracy. These people usually make great investors, scientists, inventors, entrepreneurs. This is actually one of the few strengths that will increase your chances of success regardless of what career path you go down because it allows you to differentiate from right and wrong.
A sanguine. This type is often described as spontaneous, optimistic, and energetic. As you might imagine, those who fall into the sanguine archetype are extroverts. With high energy levels and an insatiable curiosity, people with this temperament tend to love adventures and seek out new experiences. They can hold a conversation with almost anyone and bring their playful energy into their interactions. As natural entertainers, sanguine types love being the center of attention. They pride themselves on their individuality and enjoy displaying their differences. Another notable trait of this type is their ability to express and receive love and affection. However, these individuals are easily devastated if not constantly reassured that they are loved and appreciated. That said, they believe in forgiving and forgetting and expect other people to feel the same way. A major downfall of the sanguine type is that they tend to be impulsive. Poor planning skills, disorganized thinking, and chaotic environments are the cost of living a life of spontaneity. The choleric. These people like to speak their mind with dominance and strength. Their source of power comes from their mental strength, which is evident through their knack for critical thinking and creative problem solving. If you've ever met a choleric type, you would describe them as blunt, tough, or brave. Other qualities of this type include immense focus and strong competitiveness. You might assume they have something to prove, and they usually do. Choleric people excel in new environments and situations, so they actively seek them out. With rigid goals in mind, people with this temperament rarely stray away from their path to success. They know what they want and they keep going until they reach their goal, and nothing you say can change that. Fear is an unfamiliar concept to the choleric. At least, that's what they want you to think. They possess the highest self-esteem compared to the other temperaments, and confidence is their guiding light. These types are assertive and demanding. Sometimes they let their emotions get the best of them, and they react with intimidating intensity. People with a choleric temperament are known to get what they want, when they want it. The phlegmatic. This type is defined by their exceptional social skills. Those with this temperament have high emotional intelligence. They express their feelings and needs easily and effectively, and are often described as empathetic and understanding. Phlegmatic types naturally connect facts and feelings, and they have a good grasp on human thought and behavior. These qualities lead them to be well-liked by others. People who fall into this category also tend to be slow to anger. Unlike the sanguine, the phlegmatic prefers a life free of surprises. They enjoy serenity, peace, and quiet. As a result of their quiet nature, phlegmatic types tend to be great listeners. They are also great at following directions. You could describe them as hard workers, reliable, and trustworthy. They put in a lot of the grunt work to keep society on its feet. Phlegmatic people are also generally supportive and avoid criticizing others. But the downside to this attitude is that these individuals often struggle to share their thoughts when the outcome could result in conflict. Instead of making a mistake, they prefer to remain silent. And since they are kind at heart, they are often taken advantage of. The melancholic. Those with this temperament tend to be calm and poised, at least when they're not feeling emotional. Melancholic types will laugh or cry as they see fit, and you can usually see their emotions as clear as day. These individuals prioritize their family and relationships. They value respect, honesty, and loyalty above all else. Although they show respect for everyone, they are fiercely loyal toward their inner circle, and that circle tends to be small. For melancholic types, quality surpasses quantity. They would rather have a few close friends than many acquaintances. People of this temperament also tend to put a lot of energy and effort into their relationships. In fact, there is often little left for themselves, as they put others' needs before their own. Some melancholic types find it difficult to open up to others. When they are hurt in the relationships that they value so much, they build up a wall of protection. Melancholic types tend to fantasize about meeting their ideal partner, and they seek out people who fit that perfect image. However, their rigid idealism and perfectionism tends to hurt them more than help. They hold others to exceptionally high and often unrealistic standards, setting themselves up for disappointment. In addition to these downfalls, melancholic types also tend to be overthinkers, and they like to read into subtle body language, often to the detriment of their relationships.
Let's talk about biorhythm. It's important to know for yourself whether you are a morning or an evening person, or maybe you peak around noon. Once you've spotted your peak moment, make sure you plan your most essential tasks and meetings around that time. Studies reveal that most people are morning persons. In this case, it is best to plan your proactive tasks, which require the most energy, before lunchtime. Save the so-called reactive tasks for the afternoon, like replying to emails, catching up with reading, or attending meetings. 18th century economist Jacques Turgot looked into the effectiveness of labor. He pointed out that the average attention span, meaning the maximum amount of time you can pay attention to a person or concentrate on a job, is only just 10 minutes. After 19 minutes, the effectiveness of your work will have fallen back to 50%. Hold this in mind as you are planning your agenda or scheduling a meeting. Be sure to take regular breaks as well. Breaks under 8 minutes are ineffective. Breaks between 8 and 12 minutes are ideal. Ironically, smokers have an edge here. They regularly go for cigarette breaks. Now, we all know that smoking is bad for you, but taking a break is not. So do take a break at least every hour.
Ask yourself is, are your goals too vague and are they not specific enough? The reason why I ask this is because maybe one of your goals is to get fit. Now, when you say that, do you mean as fit as a model? Do you mean as fit as Cristiano Ronaldo? Do you mean as fit as an athlete? How do you define fit? Or is it just fit enough to walk up your stairs without feeling tired? Becoming more specific about the goals you want to achieve means that you're more likely to understand how much planning is involved in terms of time and resources and how you're going to make it fit into your incredibly busy week. Try to make your goals as specific as possible. The second question you need to ask yourself is, are your goals too grand to be achievable? Now, I'm a big believer in defining your destiny and reaching and accomplishing your goals, but Bill Gates said a fantastic piece of wisdom that I want to share with you. He said that actually people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. We always feel that we can make a bigger change quickly by impulsively acting rather than building blocks that will actually be great foundations for future success. What you need to do this year is actually try and find digestible blocks of work, little pieces of action that will help you effectively bring about change in small areas of your life. When these add up and build together, you'll gain momentum, and that will affect things in the future for you as well. The third question you need to ask yourself is, are you surrounded by the right people and are you influenced by the right people? If, for example, your goal is to give up chocolate, it won't help if you work at a chocolate factory, you live next to a chocolate manufacturer, your best friend loves chocolate, and you're making chocolate cake on the weekends. It's just not going to be possible. You need to be spending time with people who have the same goal, but also people who've achieved that goal and made it into a habit. Are you aware of the little milestones that you need to reach to incentivize you daily? We need to feel inspired by our goals every day, and if you're feeling that your goal is too far away or a tangible outcome is in too far a distance, you need to make it closer. You need to be noticing and observing the small things, the small changes that you can be grateful for that you see every single day or every single week. Make sure you know your milestones, otherwise you're going to get lost. A goal without a plan is just a wish, and Tony Robbins said that setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible, and therefore you really need to write your goals down. Writing your goals down makes them a focus point. It makes sure that everything you're doing in life becomes aligned with those areas. We have to make sure that what you want and what you're thinking about, what you say and what you do are in line. That's how we create harmony in our lives.
Leverage those strengths, then you lose track of time because you're enjoying it so much. It doesn't feel like work to you if it's applied in a work environment. There are those things that feel much more like play because they're engaging the right parts of your brain that make you authentically you. Now, what I found is that most people have no idea what those are. Most people are kind of like, well, I kind of sort of like public speaking, or I kind of sort of like, some stuff in accounting, or I kind of, I like to program some code. But they haven't necessarily spent the time and effort and energy to go much, much, much further and peel back layer after layer after layer to understand, well, if it's code that I like, what is it about the coding? And, if it is that creation process, what is it I like about the creation? And if it is whatever it happens to be, when you pull back that layer after layer after layer, you can really start to understand yourself and those signature strengths and really define what it is that you do in fact have the potential to be great at. So those signature strengths, we've identified that they're not only difficult to find, but you have to understand how the real world works for discovering those too. It's not a process where you're just going to magically say, wow, I woke up one day and rainbows and unicorns popped out and voila, I found my strengths. The best way that you find these, the very, very best way, is by trying lots and lots of things and getting outside your comfort zone. And guess what? When you're outside your comfort zone, that is uncomfortable for most people. So here's the way that you can actually do that in real life. You need to strategically and intentionally take on those new things that are outside your comfort zone. And some ways you might be able to do that is take on a new project. That can be at work, that can be outside of work, that can be at home, that can be, any place along those lines, but it has to make you uncomfortable. When you think about it, you've got to get a little bit of butterflies. And when you go and do that, when you do that for the first time, guess what? You're going to be terrible at it. Whatever it is, it's pretty likely you're going to be bad. and that's okay. When you go back to do it again, you're going to get a little bit better and a little bit better. And when you start to lose some of that discomfort, that's the point in time where you can start to measure, is this something that I really enjoy? If so, what are the pieces of it, the individual pieces that I actually really, really like, and what are the pieces that I don't like? And it's through that continual feedback loop where you try something and you intentionally reflect on it and intentionally decide, hey, I like this, I don't so much like this. And then you slowly, over time, start to get rid of more of the parts that you really dislike. And that's how you can actively start working in your strengths. This is something that if you start right now, then you'll be able to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So if you're going to stand up for something, stand up for your truth. It'll shape you, because people will respond and object and tell you why you're a fool and a biased moron and why you're ignorant. And then if you listen to them, you'll much less like that the next time you say something. And if you do that for 5 years, you'll be so damn tough and articulate and able to communicate and withstand pressure that you won't even recognize yourself. And then you'll be a force to contend with. Now, in order to speak what you might regard as the truth, you have to let go of the outcome. You have to think, all right, I'm going to say what I think, stupid as I am, biased as I am, ignorant as I am. I'm going to state what I think as clearly as I can, and I'm going to live with the consequences no matter what they are.